Can I see chat while I'm on here? Do I press that chat button?
I don't know whether that's chat with us or chat. Yeah, try it, Claire.
So it's private chat, and comments is the one that you need to click to see chat.
Ooh.
So I can see people have chatted, commented
yeah,
already.
I can see that, but now I can't see anybody.
Oh, you might only be able to see what she's on a phone, Paul.
Oh, yeah.
Evening, Carol, Gillian. Good evening, everybody. Evening to Paul, Yolanda, and Claire for joining.
Surprise, everyone.
Hey, dear. And I'm live for the right time. Evening, Ange. Kelly. I'm live. I've actually gone live. I said to Yolanda, shall I go live earlier and go live about 8 o'clock? She went, no. So we've told everybody 8:30.
So glad you didn't. I was still in Bath.
To the schedule.
Hey, Joanne, Judith, Jill. Oh, we've got a doozy for you tonight. Evening, Tracy, Andrew. We've actually got a topic. So tonight is all about, I can't even say what the topic is because I get
near-death experiences.
That's it, near-death experiences.
From the Near-Death Experience Research Foundation, or NDERF. NDERF.
Have you heard of that, Paul?
I haven't, but it's something I'm going to do more research in tonight because I always like to expand my knowledge.
Yeah, that's good.
I was reading up on it earlier.
That's good. So we've all got some knowledge. I'm
not saying I've got knowledge, but
so Yolanda's my knowledge. Evening, Charles, sending love across the water, my lovely. Prefer a Twix.
To a topic.
Oh, do you know? Hey, evening, soldier. Hope you're doing well, my lovely. I hope you're feeling much better. And Carol too. I hope you're feeling a lot better, Carol. So tonight's topic is, I forgot.
Near-death
experience. I must have got my brain's going a bit fried.
From the Research Foundation.
Evening, Mick. So what we're going to do is we're going to read some passages out from other people's experiences, and then we're going to analyse them between us. Paul and Claire and Yolanda, they'll give their says after it, and then if you put in chat what you think, and then we can talk about it, and then we'll move on to the next story after that and keep doing it like that. So if we go off topic, just pull me back in because I'm a bugger. So go for it, Yo-Yo.
Right. The Near-Death Experience Research Foundation, NDERF, collects stories from people who have seen the other side. The first story they've accounted is one 4-year-old girl was in the hospital with a high-grade fever that had caused hallucinations, vomiting, and fever when she felt her toes reach the foot of her bed. She opened her eyes to see herself lying on a gurney before her non-body started to rise up out of the building. I began browsing through time, she writes, and browsing is in inverted commas. I began browsing through time. I later detailed things that occurred before I could even talk. As I kept ascending, I felt at peace. There were no questions or unknowns. Time wrapped in on itself. There was no past, present, or future as we see it here. Everything happened now and all at one time. I felt no fears or worries. I began drifting towards a beautiful light and I wanted to touch it. Suddenly there was a pop. I felt like I was attached to a cord when someone grabbed it and jerked me down.
Wow.
I think that's interesting that she was 4.
I think I was just about to say that. 4. So I'm going to Paul first for your thoughts on this one, Paul first.
Well, I mean, it seems very profound. I won't go down the skeptical thing because a skeptic would say, well, she was unwell. There was things going on with it within the brain at that moment. But to get that sort of information from 4, was that written, sorry if you did say, at the age of 4 when she came out of it, or was it written some years later?
Sorry to interrupt, Paul. I got the impression that she's writing this as an adult because of, what did she say? I'm sure she said something that implied to me
I later detailed things.
That's it. Well done, Lindsay. Yes. So that implies to me that she detailed it as an adult, but recalling a childhood. Would you agree?
Yeah.
My gut feeling, I believe a story. I mean, anybody that says things, I believe. But I always kind of think all different kind of aspects what it could be. Also, as well as an adult, if she's recalling it as an adult, it's not like remembering exactly the time. Like when I would see my grandparents, they would argue what happened on a holiday. So I always like when people get stuff, pretty much after the experience. But for her, it seems this no time thing, because a lot of people say that time is just as we perceive it here on Earth. So you could put a skeptical argument to it, but personally myself, I like to believe most people, unless it's so kind of, you just sometimes get a feeling when saying it's not true.
Yeah.
But for me it's true. But there's always other interpretations, as well, which I think as investigators into things, it's always good to look at another possibility. Because I know memory isn't faultless. People remember stuff in a completely and utterly different way from each other, and as time goes by it gets distorted and things as well. So I believe, but I want to also throw out the take to it as well.
Before I come to Claire, Paul, can you just give a quick hello to who you are, because we've got I know soldiers commented, so there might be a few in here that haven't seen you before, Paul, so if you can do a quick, and then we'll go on to Claire for Claire's thoughts.
Who's on earth that guy in the blue jacket kind of thing? So yes, my name's Paul. I'm a clinical hypnotherapist. I do past life regressions with my hypnotherapy work. I'm also a master practitioner in neurolinguistic programming. Really quickly, and I've done it before. So neurolinguistic, the brain and your neurological pathways that go throughout your body. Linguistic, the way we communicate with ourselves and others. And it takes on, when we run programs, like we run the program of tying our shoelace, that's become a program. And also as well, we can program ourselves pretty much like computers. So if you don't like the software that you have, you can reprogram it to something better through the coaching that I give clients. So that's, I hope that's put it in a nutshell.
Yeah, Kibes. You have, Paul, thank you very much. And everybody is the bee's knees. If you need anything that's linked to what Paul said, please get in touch, because he's such an amazing guy.
Did Soldier not watch the
recording
of you being, when your regression with Lynn and you were recounting it with Paul?
I don't know whether Soldier's watched that yet. I'm not sure.
I think Soldier was in, or at least
I think he was.
This is Paul. This is that Paul Soldier.
Yeah. Right then, Claire, evening, Moira.
Hello. Firstly, I want to say hello to everybody because I can't see comments.
If anybody's got a question, I'll tell you, Claire. Evening, Joy.
Right. So, coming from a 4-year-old, obviously you're going to be a bit skeptical.
Yeah.
Because children do make things up. But I believe 100%. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I do.
Go on.
I do.
Sorry.
Like I say, because she's 4, people are going to be skeptical. But I've read so many reports on this, and like I said, I did a bit of research earlier, and I pulled it up in background. And nobody has any idea how this happens. So yeah, I'm intrigued, and yeah, I do believe that it did happen. For it to be such a detailed account, and for so many other accounts as well to be similar, that have happened to other people at an older age, not the age of 4. And yeah, I'm inclined to believe that it's true.
Isn't it funny though how society would see a 4-year-old version of this to an adult's more believable?
It's true, but that's what I'm saying. That's why I'm putting that in there, because a 4-year-old, people are less likely to believe than.
Listen, I'm explaining it in my lingo.
Also, as well, if I can add, which I've only just sort of thought of myself, is that for her, because I said about my grandparents, when they were alive, not agreeing on the same thing that happened on holiday, and they'll go, no, this happened. Is that maybe it was so profound and it printed itself in the memory. Unlike anything else in this lifetime, because people aren't 100% sure where memory is. they done horrible experiments. I won't go into the horrible things they did,
Yeah.
but basically with rats where their brains were so kind of messed up, you know, but they could always remember how to get themselves round a maze that they were programmed to do because the food would be at one end. A horrible, terrible experiment, but it does show that they couldn't work out where this memory came from in these rats. So, you know, I don't think all memory needs to be in the head. I certainly know and believe from the head brain, the heart brain, and the gut brain that we have.
Yeah.
But also as well, I wouldn't be surprised if memory is out there somewhere, like radio waves and television waves. They're around us all the time. We can't see them, and maybe some of our memories are out there as well, just in front of us, like a ethereal string being attached to us.
Yeah.
Also, it's like if something out of the ordinary happens or something horrible happens, that memory does imprint. So maybe because it's not a normal experience, that has stuck in there. Like I nearly died when I was 7. I didn't have an out-of-body experience or anything, but obviously I remember every detail of being ill.
Yeah.
I've got a terrible memory and I can't remember most of my childhood, but that is imprinted in my brain because, you know, it was a thing that I'm not going to forget.
Yeah. Evening, Keith. Yo-Yo, what's your thoughts? And then I'll read some comments in chat.
I don't know that me as a 4-year-old, though I had a very good imagination, you know, as 4-year-olds we all do, don't we? We can get a cardboard box, it can be a boat, it can be a tent, it can be all sorts. But I don't know if a 4-year-old could come out with something so profound. That's what gets me.
Yeah.
But that's a huge thing for a 4-year-old to come out with.
It's massive, isn't it?
And that's what gets me about the whole thing. The thing is, I'm a believer. I do believe that these experiences happen. And I think my thing is, because it's a 4-year-old, that makes it even more wow that a 4-year-old would. Whereas I could see an adult being misleading about it because they're going to make money out of it and they're going to pretend.
Yeah.
Because, you know, if you're going to be cynical or skeptical, but for a child, they're going to gain nothing other than maybe scorn.
Yeah, well,
so,
yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
Andrew's put, so evening, Keith. Soldier, no, Gillian, I can't see your comments, but then I'm on YouTube. I know a child can make stories up, but I believe it. Evening, Sharon, that's Andrew. And Andrew's put, and I've put it on screen, at 4-year-old, my daughter, who is now 23, would have been able to articulate the forementioned before she and I have amazing memories. I even remember a dream I had at 3 years old. Wow. But I sort of like can understand that one, because I had the dream I had was the vivid dream of my dad passing the week before he did, and I was 8. Do you know what I mean? So the dream-like states, I can literally remember that, and everything that happened that day, minute to minute, everything until the next morning. Then after that, it's all gone. So I can see how as an adult you could remember something that happened to you at a young age, because again, like everybody said, it's such a big thing. It's like, how can I put it?
I think it's weird. I think I'm on where you're going with this. I'm sure we've all done it, where you're asleep and you wake up because you've had a bizarre dream, or you wake up and you talk to your partner. You go back to sleep. In the morning, you get up and you speak to your partner and you want a cup of tea. Your partner will say, that was a weird chat we had last night. And you've only remembered it because they've told you. Yeah. Had they not mentioned it, you wouldn't have remembered that at all. And I'm not talking about you had a drink and you were hungover, but it's that sort of memory triggered by somebody saying something to you that you'd have forgotten if they hadn't triggered that memory.
Yeah, get you.
I would have been interested to see, I don't know when this actually happened, but if there was recording or video that the child afterwards could speak about it. Because I've seen people that are like very skeptical about past life regression, past lives, and children with spontaneous past lives. But they say, well, children make up stories all the time anyway, and if you kind of put enough together and the vague information that comes out, you can find somebody who was alive matching that description anyway. But one of the things that I do notice is that these children, when I've seen experiments of them making up stories and then seeing that it would fit, they're smiling, they're kind of thinking, isn't this fun that I'm doing this? It's kind of like playtime at school for them. Whereas these children with the spontaneous past lives that Ian Stevenson, who I talk about an awful lot, would investigate, they'll be very serious. They'll be talking almost like adults sometimes. If they're talking about something fearful or scary, they would seem to have that fearful or scary thing. Whereas a program I watched where they were asking a girl that was like murdered, she was sort of smiling and nodding to it. So two completely and utterly different.
Come on.
I was wondering what on earth this noise was. But
It's all right. Dog Charlie's out, got a cough in his throat. Bless him.
Bless him. I'll be right back. I'm just going to let Little and out.
No worries.
Out.
No
2
worries.
seconds.
So, Nick's quote, I was reading today where a woman was being operated on and she was attached to an umbilical cord while floating around the room, then being pulled back in her body after experiencing. Quite a lot of people experience that, though, I think. The umbilical cord and the floating. I think quite a lot of past lives, I'm getting past lives mixed up with near-death experiences. Evening, Laura. And Urquibus has put in, can we just explain what we're doing? The first story. So the first story, Urquibus, were about a 4-year-old girl that as she got older, she remembered a near-death experience. But when Yolanda's ready, we're going to move on to the next story. Because Yolanda's good at reading. Evening, Lynn. But yeah, so they say that most honest people, you are young children and people who are, I can't read your last bit, Joanne. So yeah, so are you ready? Are we ready for next story? The next,
Yes.
well, they're not story, the life experience that somebody's had, I should say, because it's not a story, it's an experience.
Yes, I think these are all collated from the Near-Death Experience Research Foundation. These are the collection of stories from there.
Yeah.
Right, so after a 4-year battle with lymphatic cancer, Anita Moorjani slipped into a coma in 2006. Doctors were sure it was the end, not realising that in her near-death state, she still had a consciousness. Initially, she felt like she was floating above her body with 360-degree peripheral vision of the hospital room and beyond, she told Today being a magazine. She couldn't see her late father himself, but she did feel his presence and he had a message for her. He said that I've gone as far as I can, and if I go any further, I won't be able to turn back. But I felt I didn't want to turn back because it was so beautiful. It was just incredible because for the first time, all the pain had gone, all the discomfort had gone, all the fear was gone. I just felt so incredible. And I felt as though I was enveloped in this feeling of just love, unconditional love. About 30 hours after falling into a coma, Moorjani flickered back into consciousness. 2 days later, her organs started to regain function and the tumours started shrinking. Now she's cancer-free and is a public speaker and author of books like What If This Is Heaven?
Wow.
Wow.
That's so go on, Claire, we'll come to you first.
Again, you hear of near-death experiences, and this is quite common for people to sort of be able to see themselves and see everything around them. And I've also seen, obviously, where they've floated out of the room, either felt a presence or seen one of the family members that usually tell them, you can either go back or carry on. But that's amazing that bit's obviously in there about a cancer being cured.
Yeah.
Now, I'm guessing that there is medical evidence that a cancer is being cured.
Yeah, well, there's got to be.
Exactly. So, again, I believe it.
Yeah. Paul?
Yeah, I for me, I was going to bring up the point with the cancer disappearing, and I think that's really, really good. I know that people, even if they think there's not responses, people that are in comas can hear sometimes. I remember hearing, it wasn't a near-death experience like this, but seeing a television program when there was a gentleman, he was talking about being aware that people were talking about this man in a coma, and this person who was in a coma was thinking, oh, that poor man in a coma. So consciousness seems to still keep going even when people are in that coma state. I've heard lots of stories. It comes out sometimes in the regression work, but I hear lots and lots of stories of people. I've heard it more where people have said that when they pass over, that they feel themselves lift up from the body. I've heard that personally said to me more than the white light. A lot of people say white light is the brain shutting itself down. And that can be recreated in those things which test G-force for astronauts and fighter pilots, where it just spins round and round and round. And I wouldn't want to go in those myself, but I know people can get that white light. But I know that people say that it that have had this experience, that they've lost their fear of death from it. Belief is such a huge thing. I don't think anybody needs necessarily to have a near-death experience to lose something like cancer, and it's one of those things that I think we have to be gentle with ourselves, because I know that so many people watching that will have cancer very close to their hearts. And I really like some of the stories of like Biology Belief, that book, and Candice Pert, and I really do believe that the body can heal itself. But I think that if you get too passionate about healing yourself, sometimes it can go against what's happening. So I tend to think to myself, for healing, let's see where we can go with this, rather than like this is and desperately going against it, because I know that I have cured hay fever myself. There's other health problems that I have that are more difficult to go. So I think that it's just going to say, you can heal anything, and I think people can, but it's also that deep sort of belief. And I think when people come to see me, like Dr. David Hamilton was talking to me about it. Dr. David Hamilton's written many books about kindness and about love. He did a one-touch heal. I'm going a bit off subject, so I'm sorry about that. But he did a one-touch heal with somebody where this person, although Dr. David Hamilton isn't a healer, this lady thought that David Hamilton was, so thought, can you heal me, because she had a cold. And his son has said, yeah, I can heal you. And as soon as he said those words, he thought, what on earth did I say that for? So he's thinking, what should I do? He said, you may well feel a little jolt. So basically, this lady had the cold streaming and not feeling very good, basically just tapped on the head to give her a little jolt, said, you may feel a little jolt, and just said, cold cancelled. And literally just purely because of her belief, it went this cold. So I think that, having something that, oh my God, I've seen this, I've been given a chance to come back. I do believe it was probably connected with the past lives as well. But having that experience, which I believe, again, of having a near-death experience, made something trigger in her body that had that healing that was in her anyway.
Yeah, definitely. Well, so Charles has put it's NDE, near-death experience, is a very real experience. For myself, it's taken me 40 years to talk about it to family and friends. So for me, it makes it really hard to talk about. Do you know, I can understand why it would make it hard, because, again, it's one of them taboo subjects, and because people don't understand or aren't open to different things, you can be ridiculed. And there's nothing worse than opening up something that's an experience that you've gone through, opening it up and having people just laugh and take piss, basically. Charles, you were in a safe place, and you know that doesn't happen in here. But I am so sorry it's taking you 40 years to finally be ready to talk about it. But then again, is it being ready to? Has it took it that long because you just wasn't ready? Was it because you couldn't accept it yourself, Charles, or you didn't believe yourself? I don't know. Do you know what I mean? It's a difficult one. So yeah, Yo-Yo, what's your thought on that story before? The
thing is, I'm a bit of a bigot because I believe it.
Yeah,
and I'm I know why people can be skeptical, because there are people that will make stories up to gain cash out of it.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't dream of calling anybody a liar about it. How dare I call anybody? And because I believe in it,
yeah,
I'm just going to say yes to everything. Isn't it
Yeah.
amazing? But it's something I want to believe in. And when I'm fascinated
Michelle.
by what Charles's experience, the trauma of going through that experience and coming back. But, you know, I'd like to sit down with Charles and have a coffee, and I know it sounds morbid, but really talk to him and get the ins and outs, and not because it's a morbid fascination, but because the whole thing gives me hope of what this life is about, knowing that these people are having these experiences, that it isn't just, and it's not just for me, because I think if I die and I'm dead, I'm going to know nothing about it. But when you lose a loved one, whether it's your fur baby, whoever, doesn't matter. We've all lost somebody that, or more than one, and it breaks our hearts, and we don't know how we're going to cope without them. But knowing that there's life after death lets me cope with my grief.
Yeah.
And I feel really sorry, and I don't mean this condescendingly, but I feel sorry for people that don't believe, because it must make their grief so much harder. At least I've got that hope in the distance that I'm going to meet my loved one. They don't have that hope because they don't believe in life after death. I hope I've worded that in not a horrible way.
Also, Yolanda, as well, it's like Paul was saying, you know, it gives you peace of mind, and it makes you less fearful of dying yourself.
Yeah.
And knowing that you'll be able to watch over your loved ones.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
With Charles's story, one of the things I just want to say is that, you know, it took him 40 years to really say about it, but that courage to actually say it here in front of everybody now, it might just give somebody that, because he said about being courage to do it, that might give somebody the courage to then talk about it with somebody else. And I think that the more people talk about it, particularly in groups like this, the safer the space is, and the better it is for people to say these experiences and give hope and comfort to many others, you know, that are watching and who watch this video at a future date.
Yeah, definitely. Fifi's just commenting on the stream. She is. Definitely. I know Nanny Lynn's just put, she's just woke up and come on. I mean, we're not talking about dreams, Nanny Lynn, but I will mention it. She's come on and she was dreaming that she was in a brothel. What does it mean? Nanny Lynn, we know what it means. You're dreaming of your past life regression, sweet. I put a comment up and I can't remember whose comment I put up. But I think it was something that Joanne put up. And Joanne was saying she's a cancer survivor. And for 6 months she was in chemo, and she was just saying the positivity. Sorry, Nanny Lynn, I'm joking. The positivity that she put in was what kept her going. And I think I have to believe, I believe in that, Joanne. I think if the positivity is there, the battle is hard, but I think it's an easier battle. Whereas I think if you're negative, then it's a harder battle, if that makes sense. And Charles has answered, he's put, it's more than your brain can handle, and I don't care about the money. We know you don't.
Exactly. That's why I don't understand why people would, for the cynics who say that.
Yeah.
And I absolutely get what Charles is saying. Why would you do that? You wouldn't do that.
You wouldn't do it, no.
Wouldn't.
No.
And hello, Gillian.
So I'll just put, Joe, we never give the brain the credit it deserves for positive thinking.
Exactly.
I think Paul will agree with that one.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Having goals is always good, because Joe Dispenza was speaking to somebody who was leukemia. Well, I still say he was a survivor, because he was given like just months to live. And he made the decision for himself, the person who was still going through leukemia, that he would see his daughter graduate and college there instead of university, but same sort of thing is what they say. But after that, he gave himself a goal to keep going, and now he was going to see his granddaughter graduate from college. So I think that you know, just to always have that goal, you know, of things you want to do. probably relaxing and not worrying about the small stuff, sweating the small stuff, as they say. I watched Country File, and they had a gentleman there that basically, like the person who had the near-death experience and their cancer went, he was given 6 months and thought, right, I might as well do something that I like. I'm going to go to the seaside and make sandcastles. I mean, he was a grown man, but that's what gave him joy. That's what he wanted to do. And 6 years later, he's completely fine. He's actually making sand sculptures as his profession now. So things like that are really amazing.
That's fabulous.
Yeah. Welcome, Lorna, my lovely. It's okay that you're late, my sweets. There's still plenty to go out and join in with. And Hercubus has put, aren't we only aware of 10% function of the brain? 90% more is a lot. Who knows what it's capable of?
Exactly.
Yes.
That's what I've been told. I've actually told that we do use all our brain as well, but just not at the same time. Yeah.
Yes.
I will research that more so I can come back with authority.
I use a small portion of my brain. Normally it's my mouth that's attached to the brain. So what's the next experience?
Right. This is Annabelle Beam had been diagnosed with 2 chronic life-threatening digestive disorders at... I've read that one. No, it wasn't. This is another 4-year-old.
It's just another 4-year-old. Wow.
Sorry. Anyway, I'll start again. Annabelle Beam had been diagnosed with 2 chronic life-threatening digestive disorders at age 4. By age 8, she was ready to give up until something unexplainable happened. She was sitting on a tree branch 30 feet in the air when it cracked. She fell all the way down and into a hollow at the base of the tree where she was trapped for 6 hours. She says she died and went to heaven. It was really bright and I sat on Jesus's lap and he told me, whenever the firefighters get you out, there will be nothing wrong with you. Being told today, that's the magazine.
Yeah.
And I asked him if I could stay and he said, no, I have plans you need to fulfill on earth that you cannot fulfill in heaven. When she woke up, her illness had healed. Her mum wrote the book, Miracles from Heaven, which was later turned into a film.
Oh, that's going to be an interesting watch. The film itself, based on, I love films that are based on real experience. I know they're not all in, they're not cover every aspect of it, but the gist of it, I think they're really good. So go on then, Paul. This one's thrown to you first.
Well, I think as well that because there might be people of all sorts of different religions and stuff that are more Celtic thinking, and I kind of always had this belief that all religions are right in their own way. That's all what I kind of think. I don't ever sort of go, it's either this one or it's not. So if you look at the work of Tim Freak, his name really is Tim Freak. He's sort of philosopher, has written many books about spirituality. He talks about this world of imagination that we can wake up into. So our beliefs are reality for her, like being Jesus. You'd wake up into that. If it was somebody who like like Odin and those sorts of gods, they might kind of then be kind of with Freya or whoever it is. So that sort of reality, which probably there is also as well, not just the whole thing's made up because you actually go to that world of imagination, but there are these spiritual beings that can present themselves in the way you want to have the afterlife explored, presented to you, potentially.
Yeah. Claire?
Yeah, I agree. Obviously, like Paul's just said, everyone has their own different beliefs. So to say that it's Jesus, I'm not 100% sold on that one.
Yeah,
but
it was a person to her, weren't it?
Yeah, again, it might be how she remembered him as being that, or how someone presented themselves to make her feel comfortable, take that form. But yeah, I do believe in the story. But whether it was Jesus or not, I'm not sure.
These dogs are doing because they've both disappeared.
No, I've got Fifi next.
But for that person, seeing Jesus was the most profound thing to make her then go back, but for somebody else it could be somebody else. So I think that we might get shown what is truly meaningful for us.
I'm not saying that it wasn't him to her.
Oh no, absolutely. I know.
I
know, absolutely.
I just can't say one way or the other whether that would truly have been Jesus, but to her, obviously, that's
it
who it was.
Yeah, that's who she associated, wasn't it? Yeah. Yo-yo?
Yeah, that was the first thing I picked up on. That it was Jesus, and if it was a child that hadn't been given a religious education,
would that have
or
been
had a different religion, would it have been somebody else? So is it her mind perceiving that being? Did she assume? I mean, did he come up and say, "Hello, my name's Jesus," or did she assume?
It's just
by that what she saw.
Yeah.
But
but like you said, belief in religion is such a powerful thing for people, and if they believe that God is a man with a white beard and grey long hair, that's how they perceive him. If we see man as a female with big boobs, blonde hair in rollers, that's how we're going to perceive Jesus. Do you know what I mean? So religion does play a big part, I think, in growing up, and the experience that we do have, whether it's in after, like, go on,
the
near death experience. I really do think it does play a part. There was something I was watching on telly the other day though with John, and it says, "Oh, you don't know, evening Sharon." It said that when his body dies, the last thing to switch off is the brain, and the brain stays active for, what were it, 10 minutes? Or it might not have been as long as that, but the brain stays active because the blood cells to the brain, don't ask me what it's called, but there's this long thing in your brain that sits on a stem, and that is the last place where the blood goes to. And so we still are, that's where they said the flash. That's where it's the most powerfulest part in the brain because it holds on to the memories. And that's the last part, but that's what we see. It's not.
Oh, is that what the light is?
That's what they say. Well, that's what they were saying. The light is. It's the memory pocket in the brain. Again, I've never experienced anything, so I was just mentioning that off the program. Kelly's putting her experiences into chat. If anybody else wants to jump in and say what they think about the stories that we're reading out, sorry, rephrase that, the experiences we're reading out, please jump in and comment in chat, because then it gets you a part of this conversation as well. Go on then, next experience. Stop saying story. Slap my hand.
About 20 years ago, orthopedic surgeon Mary C. Neal, MD, almost drowned whilst kayaking in Chile, and her heart stopped for more than half an hour.
Wow.
Soon after leaving my body, I was greeted by a group of beings who were simultaneously familiar and unfamiliar. This may sound strange, but I felt nothing but peace and happiness in their company, she wrote on Mind Body Green. When I was separated from my physical body, I was simultaneously aware of what was happening in heaven and what was unfolding on the riverbank where I had drowned. I thought about my husband and my children, my parents and siblings, and not at all about my work or other earthly worries. She went on to write the book 7 Lessons from Heaven.
Good, Claire.
Yeah, it reminds me, I'm not sure if it's the same lady or something that I watched on Netflix. And the woman was out kayaking and she drowned. And I think she was dead for about half an hour. And yeah, again, I totally believe that, because
do you think you would forget about your earthly worries?
At that moment in time, yeah, because I think you'd just be like so enthralled in what's happening. I mean, if you can sort of like, if you're having this experience, I think your earthly worries are the last thing on your mind. I think they're totally, I think I'd be in awe, what's happening, but in a good way. Especially if it was that experience. So yeah, I do. So yeah, again, I believe it. And like you've just said, the brain does not last half an hour. You can't die and your brain function lasts for half an hour.
No.
From what I've been reading, it's impossible.
Yeah. like I said, I can't remember time span that your brain stays active.
I read it earlier, and I think it was about 10 minutes, but I'm trying to find it now. But
Yeah.
it wasn't half an hour.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't half an hour.
I think certain conditions can, if it's really cold, extend that 10-minute time. I remember seeing a program several years ago, I was told about it, where somebody had died. They were on a hospital trolley and they were brought round, I think it was, so I don't know, or 3 hours later, if I remember the story right, but he had to start his whole learning again because it was like a newborn baby, because obviously his brain had died. But when he was being interviewed about it, he was completely and utterly fine because they retaught him how to do things. Also reminds me of a family member who always believed that he had a guardian angel helping him out with things, and he didn't have a near-death experience, but he almost drowned whilst he was in the sea because he went out too far. And he said somehow he managed to get back, and he kind of said he didn't know quite where he got the strength from. And he felt somebody was helping him out, like a guardian angel. And he said when he got to shore, there was a bloke standing there with a pair of binoculars and just calmly said to him, almost didn't make it. So, which I think I would try and raise the alarm somehow. But
somehow you would, wouldn't you? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think that that it was half an hour. I want to check that, but even still, even if the cold conditions meant that she could survive 30 minutes, that's still an incredible story.
It is, yeah, definitely. Joanne's put, when my mother and her mom, my nan died, both of them called out to other family members who had passed away just seconds before they pass away. I believe that past loved ones come to meet them. I believe that. Just put Moira's up. It's been fascinating, says your mom. I believe what Joanne said. I've witnessed. I've been there working in care, and being sat outside of about 4 people when they've took the last breath, and been in the room with them in the last hour or last 2 hours of them passing. And it's really a strange experience, because some of them sit up and they'll have a proper conversation with you, and then they'll lie back down, and within 4 hours they might have passed. Others, they'll towards the end, they start pointing towards end of the beds. They start talking about brothers, about loved ones coming forward. Now, again, my belief, and I do believe that our loved ones do come forward. I believe they come forward, like my dad will come forward to me the last I remember him as, not as I'd remember him, not as he got older in spirit. He'll go back to the, like my granddad will go back to the same. So I'd recognise them, if that makes sense. But I've lost plot what I'm going to say. But other people say, this brain thing that I was talking about, it's the memories, that's the last memory. And because the memories are so profound, is it a memory that we're reliving before we go over? Do you know? Don't explain the near-death experiences, but it certainly would for family members and such, because they've got to be, their memories in his head, aren't they? So could that be it? I don't know. It's
it might also be a part in the brain that is kind of like kickstart for you to get across, because the memories help you to go across and call on those people as you're passing over to move on, so that the memories are there. It might be designed in such a way that it's important for the person passing over, because it's kind of like the call-in switch for people to come for you. Just an idea.
Could be. Yo.
I read a book about a woman who, I think I've typed this actually in chat, because I sometimes get a bit angry with scientists when there's something paranormal going on, and it's almost as if scientists have to explain it.
Yeah.
And science is obviously fabulous. I know that. I'm not condemning science. But they'll turn around and they'll say, well, this is what's happened. That's why you see the light. But actually they don't know that.
Nobody
knows.
They
don't know if the light I see is the light they're talking about.
The thing is, though, that the short brief thing that I read earlier, a lot of the accounts on there were people of science, doctors, got PhDs.
Ooh, you have to share
nurses.
that link for us, Claire.
So there were professional people that should be, saying no. There's no scientific way that this happened, but obviously they've experienced it, and the 1,000 believe what they went through is true. So for someone from science to say this happened to me,
don't you think though that the media, when the media is showing these stories, they mock the paranormal, but they will listen sensibly to a scientist. So if you've got, and I've read that too, because there's a scientist doing, I can't remember if it's Plymouth or Portsmouth, but some university where the objects are left on a wardrobe, and they're writing the accounts of that. But you get more attention from the mainstream media from the people that don't believe than the scientists who do believe. And that, going back to this thing with comparing it to science, and I'm not knocking it, because I can't say either way, I don't know. But a woman went into an art gallery and saw a picture on the wall, and she said to who did that picture? Well, it was the art gallery owner that had drawn the picture, and the viewer of that picture said, "You've been to heaven, haven't you?" Because she said, "I've seen that, I recognise it."
Oh wow. So
that wasn't anything to do with their brain, unless their brain saw exactly the same
exactly
image.
The same. Yeah. That's interesting. Chris has shared on YouTube. It's a YouTube link. I'll see if I can get either one at Mods to copy it, or if you can send me a link, Chris, would be better. But he shared a link, and it says pronounced dead for 20 minutes, what he saw and how it changed his life forever. So, Chris, if you wouldn't mind sending me that link, and then I can share it, so we can watch that.
It's not the first time I've heard it, but I just wanted to say about the media. I wouldn't say so much maybe mocking, but maybe having a disbelief in certain things paranormal. But what I have seen, I've seen it, other people, I've heard other people say it before, is that if, say, like scientists come out and say this wonder drug for skin problems or something like that, they'll just get the person that created the drug and some scientist type person to talk about it, end of. If you have somebody who comes across and says this herb is really good for the skin and it can cure this and this, they'll then get somebody from the pharmaceutical or equivalent in to then talk about it to put a counterbalance. So there seems to be, when it's something more natural or more spiritual, that they have to do a counterbalance. But when it's something else, you don't get the person to do the drug, and somebody says, well, actually, this something bark is actually really, really good for these conditions.
Yes.
I think the thing with pharmaceutical companies is they don't want anything natural, do they? Because they can't make money out of that.
No.
Very true.
So I think they'd always disagree.
But it's not just pharmaceuticals. It's
No, I know,
but
I know what you're saying. Saying.
Next
story.
Chris is on Facebook. He is Soldier.
When NDERF, near-death
experience
Research Foundation. Contributor Laurie was 19 years old. She was swept into rapids on a rafting trip. She was trapped beneath the surface, and as water filled her lungs, she knew she was going to die. Everything went black, then white, as if she was travelling through a tunnel. Looking around me, I could see a room that appeared to be formed from pure white clouds, yet wasn't solid, she explains. In the room were three beings made of shimmering crystal. Light shone through them like a glass prism, forming a rainbow. One was larger than the other two, but all of them spoke to me. I was afraid of them, and they seemed to realise this. Instantly, they transformed into what I recognised as angels. They didn't have bird wings. They had fibre-like fibre optic cables that were shaped like wings, and pure light shone through the fibres, forming colours in all shades. When they spoke, their messages were sent telepathically. The angels showed her a golden field with beautiful music, with a tree and a lake nearby. I think that's the end of that one. I'm just going to turn over. Yes, that's the end of that one.
I forgot who was first to speak. Is it Claire? Is it Paul?
I think it's Paul this time.
Was it Paul this time? Go, Paul.
It's the first time that I've actually heard of somebody, I mean, correct me wrong in the comments, but somebody actually having fear in a near-death experience. I've known people that have spoke to me personally about their near-death experience, and they always say that it was really light and joyous. So that's kind of interesting. Again, I believe it, and you know, again, there's no real like, oh, this happened because of this. I'm just sort of putting like theories and ideas in, but maybe half her mind was still conscious as she was in that transitional period. So what was happening kind of interpreted the brain as this is frightening. Because I think the spiritual beings should know what people like to experience, you know, of that moment of passing, because it happens enough for it to be frightening. So I'm wondering if there's something to do with a conscious mind still slightly being there, interpreting something differently.
Yeah, because if the brain's holding, obviously the way you die is completely different. But drowning is a bit, you feel it, you know, you're drowning, don't you? When you pass that way. So I wonder whether the fear that was ignited in that split moment of the panic with the lungs drowning sensation, I wonder whether that was because it was so real in that moment that when she did pass, because the brain's still active, that memory, that emotion was still there during the transition kind of thing. I know I have heard people have had experiences where they have seen nothing, it's just a blackness. But for me, do you know, I'm going to jump in this and then I'm going to let Claire and Yo-Yo talk. But you know, for me, do you know this light that they're talking about? No, and they're saying they see this light, this tunnel. When we did as past life experience with Paul, Paul took us to a room. It was doors. Mine wasn't, I don't think mine were a corridor as such. I can't remember whether it were, I can't remember. But you know that if that's what somebody sees, or when after at the end, when my past life crossed over, and I said to Paul, I felt such a release of peace. It wasn't like a bright light. It was just like an luminous light kind of thing. Yeah. And when I come out of that, I no longer fear dying. My fear of dying. Now, it wasn't a near-death experience, but if these people are experiencing the feeling that I felt when I come out of my past life regression, wow. I'll tell you now, the peaceful feeling of it. Wow. And I'm coming back from an experience and saying they don't no longer fear death. I can literally, I can't say I can understand, but that peace feeling I found when my previous life ended was awesome. Wow. It were really good. So that's interesting. Yeah. Oh, she stuck her sen out again, look. Go on, Yo-Yo, you're going to have to talk till she pops herself back in. Nutcase she is.
I think it's interesting what you picked up on the fear, because, you know, Paul said he hadn't encountered that, and you picked up on the, was she frightened of the drowning? So is there a correlation between the two? Yeah. That's my thoughts on it. Listening to you two, rather than actually what was said in there. Because I didn't pick up on that, Paul. Paul picked up on the fear aspect. I just thought it was interesting how they went from, because she was fearful, how the image changed.
The image changed, yeah.
But it was interesting that Paul hadn't heard, and then how you put that fear into it.
Yeah.
That's where the fear could have
come from. And I wonder whether that relates to other people. If their consciousness is awake when they're having a heart attack and the fear comes in, is it the last bit of fear that they're sensing? She's here, look, she's back. Where have you been?
I don't know. I just got booted out.
I must say hello to Lorna. I must say hello to Lorna as well. Wonderful.
Yeah, because Lorna's commented.
Yes.
So, Dr. Fem, go on, Paul. Do you want to read this one?
Yeah, well, I think we're both as good as each other with being dyslexic. So I've read many books that have never actually been published because I put different words into it. So we'll give it a go. You might have to take over.
Yo could read. Claire can read it.
Yeah. So do you want to go for it, Yo? It's quite a long one.
Go on.
If you
Dr.
can read it,
Fennick, a neuropsychiatrist, studied the afterlife within various cultures. He discovered that what you experience at the point of death is dependent upon your belief. Therefore, if you are a Christian, you may see a light at the end of a tunnel and possibly see Jesus. If you're of another religion, you may be faced with a river to cross. It's all very interesting, taking into account other cultures and their beliefs.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
definitely.
That's what we were saying earlier as well.
Yeah,
with the,
definitely was.
Jesus view. But that's really good. I must look at Dr. Fenwick, and thanks for putting that in, Lana.
Yeah, thank you, Lana,
Yes,
my
thank
lovely.
you.
That does make sense as well, doesn't it? And
It
going back
does.
to the experience that you've just read,
Yes, please.
what if, going back to that theory, what if her thoughts and beliefs were that like you were greeted by like aliens, or which I know sounds really out there, but we don't know. We
The
do
belief
not know.
systems,
I
the
believe
belief
in
systems.
aliens. What's to say, that was her belief?
Yeah,
Well, maybe she saw whichever these beings were in their true form. And obviously I guess that we
That's
expect
interesting.
to be received by or greeted by loved ones. So I know, like Paul said, that you've never heard of anyone sort of like having this sort of experience. It's always been nice.
Yeah.
And neither have I. But like if they've shown themselves in their true form, and her expectations were to be met by a loved one, I think I'd be freaked.
Yeah. Could be. It's a good explanation, isn't it? Do you know? Yeah. Right. Do you want to do one more, Yo-Yo?
Okie dokie. In 2008, neurosurgeon Eben Alexander, MD, went into a coma with a rare form of meningitis that only infects 1 in 10 million people. His doctors figured he had only a 10% chance of living. I was rescued by a slowly spinning clear white light associated with a musical melody that served as a portal up into rich and ultra-real realms, he writes on his website. The Gateway Valley was filled with many earth-like and spiritual features, vibrant and dynamic plant life, with flowers and buds blossoming richly, and no signs of death or decay. Waterfalls into sparkling crystal pools, thousands of beings dancing below with great joy and festivity, all fueled by swooping golden orbs in the sky above, angelic choirs emanating chants and anthems that thundered through my awareness, and a lovely girl on a butterfly wing. After being unconscious for a week, he woke up and hadn't suffered any brain damage. His book, Proof of Heaven, describes more of his experience.
Wow.
Go
on, Claire.
Again, I totally believe all of these, by the way.
Yeah.
Like, these people have got no reason to lie. And I do believe. Do we create our own heaven? That is the question, man. So. That's what I'm asking myself now. Do we create our own heaven? Do we have an idea of what heaven looks like? Do we have an idea of who greets us? And is it our idea that actually comes true when we pass?
I believe we create our own heaven.
So if that is someone's version of what heaven looks like, is that what then is?
Possibly. Possibly, because if you think about it through, like, I sit and imagine what heaven is like now for me. Do you know? I'll sit there and I imagine family being there, friends being there. I imagine us being in a pub. I imagine a karaoke machine and everything else going on. When I do cross, is that what you're going to get? Because you're expecting it. Yeah, is that what I'm going to feel when I'm going through? So I will see the peace. I will see what I felt. But in my memory, have I already created my heaven? Because the brain is such an unexplained piece of
the other theory, obviously, that I can think of is, are we sent to like a alternate universe? Who knows?
Love you too, Gillian.
Who knows?
Sorry, you're overwrought.
Go on, Paul.
Yeah, it sounds a really wonderful experience, actually. I think that, from all of these, all of them are some similarities or quite different. There seems to be a lot, probably, I might be wrong, but from America. So the belief is more the Christian belief and stuff, belief that. But it'd be nice to see some different religions and they have exactly what they expect
Be interesting.
kind of happening. Yeah, I mean, as you're saying, we create our own heaven. I'm sure somebody, passes over and thinks, "Oh, fantastic! It's just like the king's head." So it could be that would be their heaven. So all sorts of things could happen.
Laughing about what
I'm laughing at Soldier because he's just put what his thing in heaven would be. When I think of hell, I imagine a pub with Lindsay and a karaoke machine. So what Steve put up, is that how earthbound spirits were created? We imagine our idea of heaven, and when we pass, that is not it, and therefore we struggle to cross as it's not what we pictured, and therefore we stay in Earth's realm. Ooh, that's taking a bit deep, Mr. So, go on, your thoughts, and then we'll come back and address Steve's.
Yeah, I wonder if we do create our own heaven and hell. Here's something I think's interesting. If I do something and in my conscience, I honestly don't think I've done a bad thing.
Yeah.
Let's say I've got an illness and I hear voices. It's not my fault I've got a psychiatric illness. What is it when you hear voices?
Schizophrenia.
Schizophrenia.
So thank you. Let's say I've got schizophrenia and I hear a voice that tells me to go and kill
me.
Yeah, Lindsay. And I do go and kill Lindsay. And I then die. I don't see why I should go to hell.
When it wasn't you that did it.
When it wasn't me that did it. It was my... Do you see what I mean?
It was another person.
Whereas if I consciously sit here and kill Lindsay because I want to have her bottle of water and I don't think it's fair she's got it and I know it's wrong and it's greed I'm killing her for, then I think my conscience would take me to hell because I know it's wrong.
Yeah.
Whatever hell may be. So yes, I do. I agree with you all. I think heaven is of our own conscience and our own making.
Yeah.
I believe. Yeah.
What about what Steve's put in though? Steve's just thrown a doozy in here, hasn't he?
Yes.
He just pops in because he's just got out of bed and he puts this in. Go on then, Claire, your thoughts on this one?
That's very interesting and very deep.
It is deep. I like this.
I do as well. And it could be possible. It could be.
Paul?
I think that it could be a possibility with Steve. I think, asking the question, what is a ghost, what is a spirit? And I think that it can be a whole different group of things. You even hear of crisis ghosts, so ghosts that are seen when somebody is in a highly stressful situation. They think they're going to die and their family members see them. They end up being okay after, but it's this sort of phenomenon which is called a crisis ghost. You also get your stone tape theory, you also get your in visitation and things, but it might well be it could be that, for some people, I know that it's something traumatic, maybe the spirit feels stuck there because they can't get over what's actually happened to them.
Like if they die quickly as well.
It could be if we do have a point that we go to a light or crossing somewhere or see something that you think, oh no, I don't want to do that, and then not the door's closed, but you're too frightened to go through that door because you're not sure what's going to happen the other side of that door either. So
the thing is as well, Paul, I mean, like if you're in that situation and your body's died, then you can't go back either, can you?
No, exactly. So I mean, it also as well, if your ideal heaven is to be in a certain place, but you also really, really were attached to maybe a park you used to go to, maybe a building, maybe a church you used to visit, that on certain times you can go back to experience and maybe live through some of the joy in a nice way, not in a psychic vampire way, but the people that are getting the joy of going to the church, going to the park, etc., that they can sort of feed off the energy, maybe.
Yeah, definitely.
Do you think I'm sorry? I'm taking conversation.
No, you're
in
not
a different
taking
direction.
Conversation, no,
I'm taking it in a different direction as well, though, because
that's okay.
Like a lot of people experience ghosts or paranormal activity if they make changes to the house, so they have an extension or something or do major works. Do you think that could then be down to that because they want it to stay how they remember it? So do you think that could force activity?
I know of a medium that I was talking to said there was one spirit of a man that was really upset because the spirit thought these people had just randomly moved into his house, and then these random people that moved into his house had built an extension over his dog's grave. So he was really upset, and he was moving things and banging things to basically let him know he was upset in the way that he could. Really. So and also as well, the banging noises of things might not just be poltergeist activity, but if you want to be heard and you're using the voice and you can't be seen, then you'd start banging on things.
Yeah. I mean, I've heard a few people say that when they've moved into homes or buildings, or they were in America, they'd bought an old church and they were renovating it to live in it. And they'd knocked so many walls down, but then all the activity started that way.
Wow.
And it was because the energies that were still there didn't like it would change to them. So to me, for me looking at that then, where it comes down onto spirits is, so some spirits then can actually physically see what's happening, whereas the others are just walking through time. It's a time lapse, which is really an interesting, very interesting theory.
Yeah, like Paul said, if you've got a favourite park and you go and watch that park, and then they build houses on it,
exactly,
and you've still got that attachment. You've still got that consciousness, and you're attached to that place because you like that place, and then you see that happen, you're not going to be happy.
The places again could hold, like we said, just because we die doesn't mean that we necessarily forget things. We might forget them when we're reborn, but in the moment while we're still in spirit form, our memories are still going to be there, and maybe it's more of not an attachment, but more of a special memory. So if you've got memory of being on a field playing football with your mom or your sisters or your brothers or your dad or whatever, and then they build something on it, you're going to be pretty pissed if your memory's telling you, and they might not even see the new buildings in this part, but they're still playing the game of football, which then their football could be bouncing and knocking things off, causing the noise. Do you know, they might not know that new buildings have been built.
Yeah, they could still be playing football and it's in someone's house.
And that's why the rattling's coming, and it's coming in the spaces where the new walls have been knocked down. It's such a point. Yeah, it really is. I just want to jump on Joanne's, because I know Joanne as Joanne's been a moderator for us for about 2 years. 2 years, Joanne.
She joined about the same time as me, I think, didn't you?
Well, no, so it was just before, over a year then, isn't it? Yeah, about over a year. And I know Joanne has been through it really with everything that she's gone on. But she's put, my 15-year-old daughter had severe psychosis this year. She used to hear voices. I remember it all. I know Joanne because we've all spoke about this in Mod Chat with her and helped her through as much as we can.
We tried to.
Saying she had to kill me to get to her real mom in the real world, and she didn't recognise Joanne as a mom. And then she's put she saw and heard figures talking to her. She had tactile, visual, and auroral hallucinations. I cared for her at home for most of it. She did go into hospital. Her psychosis went, and she can't remember it. I know you went through, not just you, but your daughter went through, everybody went through mill and back, Joanne. And you know what? You are a strong woman, and so is your daughter. And thank you so much for sharing bits of what you've been through. So, Paul, I'm going to throw this one to you. Just because obviously your expertise in what you do and everything else. So can
I just add to that with what? Yeah, I mean, obviously we know what Joanne went through because that was spoken about in Mod Chat, and it's not our story to tell. and that's Joanne's baby, and she loves her very much. What Joanne went through was horrendous. But going back to what we were saying earlier, Joanne's daughter should not, in my world, in my religion, Joanne's baby should not be punished for that. Had she, sorry, Joe, but had she been successful in her psychosis, why should she be punished? Because it's not her fault and she can't even remember doing it.
Yeah.
So
no, yeah, it does
in my
back
world,
to you.
That,
but again, do you know, this is hard after we were talking again. My youngest grandson's been staying with us, and we're having a little break for him. And when we talk to him, he's only one, and we call him Artie, and you'll go Artie, and he'll go Artie, Artie, like in a really deep voice. And Jordan made a comment the other day, and she says, you know, if this was 60, 100 years ago, he'd be classed as possessed, and we'd be doing a thing on it. So it just shows the different time periods and how they dealt with things. But Paul, I am just going to let you speak to Joanne, if you don't mind, and
of course,
yeah,
absolutely. I think that for myself is just to when you've been through things like that, one of the best things is to reach out with other people and groups, and not putting aside any trauma, any stress or anything like that, but to kind of, how can we comfort each other? How can we move from this state to something happier? I think you can't ever just say something's gone and it doesn't bother me anymore. You know, I still have visions that come back with my dad, what happened to him. But when these knocks happens, it takes something out of you. I mean, losing my dad took something out of me. But also as well, if you can also see as well, it gave me something else as well. It gave me how I could help other people. It gave me looking into this stuff. And it's a life that I fully enjoy doing this work that I do. So I think that if you can get a group of people together, like a support group or just people that you can speak to on a one-to-one basis, but without being heartless, it's not doing that. It's not playing the, as Louisa Hay say, isn't it awful? It's kind of like sort of saying, this hurt deeply. This is things I've done to help myself. So I hope that helps in some way, and I can still give tools and things. Joanne needs it, or anybody else.
I mean, she's got autism, and psychosis was a stress-induced, and she's put, it was really weird. She drew pictures of figures she was seeing. The doctors asked to keep them for medical research, which is absolutely, I mean, it's like you said, I mean, it must be so hard for not just a child, but for anybody that's going through this kind of psychosis, because the being in it, and the not did deep down, she know that it were a mum, but she couldn't accept it was a mom, do you know? And it just what she must have been going through. And then, like you say, you look at what Joanne went through, and it's such. But you know what? I think you're right though with what you just said though, Paul. You know, like you say, you know, when you lost your dad, you lost something but found something, and that was your dad's gift back to you. Maybe with Joanne and a daughter, what they've lost, they could gain, because what they've been through and come out of in a better place is something that Joanne could help other parents when she's ready.
Have to be ready,
and also a daughter help them through their times. And obviously you can never say to somebody, oh, you need to do this, you need to do that. But what you can say to them is, this is how we coped as a family, and we tried all the, do you know, and maybe that's the positive out of all the negatives. I think that's what we all need to look for when something happens, is we're given something back as well. And what we tend to do with that is on us, on a person, because some people might not see the gift they've got back. Some people might not see that for a long time. So,
well, there's probably some mother going through what Joe's been through, and would love to speak to Joe right now. Joe could be a huge support, or even Joe's daughter to a child that's going through it.
I remember my brother had sort of an episode. He was only young. I think he was about 4. And don't know what caused it. But he used to wake up in the night. He'd wet the bed. He'd scream, and he'd be awake, but he could see things. For instance, one night it was like aliens, but it was just screaming in a state because to him they were real. We couldn't see anything, obviously, but to him they were real. And I remember he had to sleep in my mum's bed, mum and dad's bed in between him. He'd start off in his own bed, and then he'd wake up, and obviously he'd be in with mum and dad, and he'd just be sat up, and he'd be pointing at things.
Yeah.
And like you say, it affects the whole family as well. I mean, everybody's worried. You don't know what's happening. Nobody's getting any sleep. It's so distressful. Doctors didn't know what was going on. And like I said, to this day, we don't know what caused it. But to him, that was so real.
Yeah.
It's
just
scary. And upsetting because you can't help.
Yeah, you feel helpless, don't you?
You feel helpless.
I think that's the worst feeling for anybody, is the helpless feeling that you get when you can't help. There's nothing you could do, say. There's nothing you could put in place, really, because without knowing, or do you know what I mean? You just can't be. You just can't put yourself in their places. Lorna's just put, though, I have conducted soul rescue in places that have undergone renovation. It seems to stir up resident spirits or the echoes, residual energy of the past times. But yeah, definitely. I mean, do you know what we'll have to do, Lorna? We'll have to get you on with Paul and come and join Paul one night if you're up for it, Lorna. And I mean, we can either continue doing more on this. We can look at doing a different topic that we can all link in together and everything else. If you're up for it, I think Terry and Joanne are gonna.
I was just going to say, I've been lucky enough to have phone conversations with Lorna and had a reading from her, and she's such a fascinating person. It would make a really, really good evening if Lorna's on.
That's right, good. So yeah, Lorna, look forward to getting. What we'll do is I'll set it up with Paul and let Paul message you some dates or whatever, and see when you're free. And then it's always going to be on a Tuesday, but then you're more than welcome to come and join us all on here on a live chit chat, and let's get some more discussions going. I've right enjoyed tonight. Nanny Lynn's put, death is a part of life. In a way, it comes to us all eventually. But if you believe as I do, it's all a journey of learning. Do you know what, Nanny Lynn? That is, I'm going to finish on that one, because I think that is the whole point anyway of life, really. I think the learning journey that we're all on. I think that just finishes it very nicely, that, Nanny Lynn. But yes, death is a part of life. And I think those that are lucky, for me, those that are lucky enough to have a near-death experience and experience something, for those that have experienced the beauty side of it, the taking away the fear side of it, for them, wow, you know. But do you know what I do find intriguing? We always say that the spirits can't tell us things about what it's like in heaven and places like that, because obviously if it was better over there, how many people would want to go there earlier than the time, let's say. But what makes me think is we've got people coming back that are having near-death experiences. Some of them, they'll tell a different stories. Some of them, like I said, some people say they don't see anything. Others say that they see what's being explained here. They're coming back from such a beautiful place, yet they're not rushing to get back. So to me, when they're coming back for a reason, and it's to enjoy the life that they've got. And maybe these people that did that, something was happening to them that they needed to be shown, that actually life is about enjoying and do you know what I mean? I wonder whether there's some sort of connection to them, or I mean, I noticed in this one there were a lot of them that connected to illnesses. They got terminal illnesses. So, not saying that everybody has, because they're not. There's other stories in there that we've not touched the subject on. But yeah.
But then, why would they be allowed to remember to tell that story if we're not allowed to know?
Well, for me, on my personal thought is they come back to tell us should be more of a reassurance for everybody that, well, they've been sent back before their time, you know.
No, I understand that, but why can't spirits tell us?
I think they can. I just think we may not ask the right question. No, I think we might not be asking the right questions.
Or maybe they do and we don't hear.
Yeah, that's true.
Exactly. Paul?
That's true.
Absolutely. And I think that, asking spirits the right questions is, even when people aren't doing paranormal investigations, to ask that. Ask important questions come through on the Ovulus or spirit box, whatever you're using. Not what I have seen people go in and they go walk into a room, the first thing they say, "Do you want us to leave?" And I think, what a waste of a question that is.
Yeah, it is.
Can you imagine walking into your friend's house and do you want me to leave?
That's exactly it. They're gone. Yeah.
Yes.
But there is, though, isn't there? I mean, I totally agree, Paul, because that is. Yeah, that's a class one. That does get said. I think we may have said that.
I usually said, "Do you mind us being here?"
Yeah, you mind us being here? Well, actually, yeah, I do. But no, but it is. It's like you said. I think sometimes, especially how we investigate, maybe we do need to take a step back and look at questions we want to ask. Maybe we're asking the right questions, but like I said, just in a way that is not making sense to them. Do you know? Maybe that's something that we could look at doing, and just focusing on one investigation is the actual question, asking questions that can be answered, but not going to necessarily somewhere that's got a ghost sighting. I'm not talking about going somewhere that's got the history, or just picking a nice quiet spot somewhere. And like Paul said, just going and sitting down and just having a conversation. It doesn't have to be a paranormal investigation. It doesn't have to be we're going out looking. We're just going out to
by a riverbank on a
lovely. Be nice.
Exactly. That's an experiment. That is an experiment itself. So I'm going to say thank you, Paul, for that one. But yeah. Steve's put, I believe from the day we were born, we have tasks in this life, and your time to pass doesn't come up until you complete the task. If you pass before completing it, you are reborn until it's completed. Yo, make sure that you complete all your tasks, otherwise you'll be reborn. But yeah, so on that note, guys, I am going to end it because I think tonight's been a fascinating conversation. We are going to be live again next week with Paul. Nanny Lynn will be joining him with myself, Claire and John, talking about the Halloween special on Sunday night. Nanny Lynn's got all the juicy history. Paul's going to be joining us to talk about what he's got coming up next, and joining obviously with the chit chat from the conversation, and anything else Paul wants to bring up and discuss will be a topic open for discussion. So I think it's been a really good it's been an amazing night. So I want to say thank you to Paul for coming on. I want to say thank you to Yolanda for joining me.
Thank you for inviting me.
And I want to say a big thank you to Claire for coming on. But yeah, thank you. And don't forget, guys, obviously Claire's on team, Yolanda's on team, moderator's on team, Paul's even part of team in his own little way. But if anybody, I'm being serious, if anybody does feel that there's anything that Paul could help you with, even if you're not 100% sure and think, no, I'm not sure, I can't ask that, there is no daft question to ask Paul. It will be straightforward. So if anybody is needing some guidance, some advice on what kind of therapy or whatever, the past that you can use, the different tools that you can use, please get in touch with Paul.
I don't know if you're still watching, Gillian, but a message went past and we were talking. I think we were talking about Jo and her situation. And she wanted, Gillian, if you're still listening, hear what Lindsay just said, because I think Gillian wanted to speak to Paul. I wanted to ask Paul a question, but we were talking with Terry at the time.
Right,
and
I missed it.
We missed it, Gillian. So sorry.
Sorry, Gillian, sweet. But yeah, message Paul. Paul's on Facebook and he's also on YouTube. Paul, just say your links for Facebook and YouTube for me.
Yes, thank you. So on Facebook, it's I've got, if you want to know more about the NLP, it's Paul Goddard NLP and hypnotherapy. I've got Paul Goddard Past Life Regressions. On YouTube, it's Past Life Regressions with Paul Goddard or Paul Goddard NLP and hypnotherapy. I've also got just one Paul Goddard, which is a completely and utterly random channel, but there's lots of fun things, and I do speak to people as well on it. So it's just a nice fun channel to be on, and they can go to my website www.paulgoddardnlp.co.uk. You can also just put in Paul Goddard Gloucester. I'll still come up. You'll see the website. There'll be a video with my happy smiling face somewhere in there. Services, what I offer. But yeah, just ask any questions you want to with confidence. You know, I get so many people that email me or phone me and say, "I'm really sorry to be bothering you." It's like this. Just ask a question with confidence. That's what I like. Yeah, that's what I like. So you're not bothering me at all. If I was really busy, I wouldn't be answering the phone.
Exactly. So Evening War Dog, sorry I didn't say hello earlier, but yeah, it has been a fascinating night. So thank you so much to everybody joining us tonight, and I do hope you come back and join us. This has probably been one of the most what can I say, it's not a normal chit chat Tuesday.
I can't believe we stuck to the topic.
Exactly, we've stuck to a topic all night, which is what we said we wanted to start.
Yeah.
We don't want to have a laugh and a joke on some Tuesdays, but we also
it's been interesting. It's been really good.
It's been interesting. So so take care, everybody, and we shall see you all later.
Bye.
Love you loads, guys.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye. And in